I am thrilled to share with you today Lisa Spector. Lisa is Juilliard trained. Says her piano playing has gone to the dogs. And I personally play her music for Doodles in my care daily with our shed-free stay care at the Doodle Pro. And I'm excited to share her music and her expertise on how to help your doodles relax with music. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here. I don't think I've ever talked to a group of all doodle owners. Yeah,
We are unique and fabulous.
because you're unique and fabulous.
Oh, you're too kind. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about your concert pianist background and your background with dogs? As I know you've worked with service dogs and you do some work with your present dog as well.
Sure. I joke on my podcast that my Juilliard degree has gone to the dogs because I did not plan on that when I went to Juilliard. No one goes to Juilliard and say, I want to play concerts for dogs,
Mm.
but that's what I do. And I grew up on a piano bench, basically. I've been playing since I was 7, and by the time I was 11, I was at the piano 3 hours a day, and that's pretty much all I did all through my childhood, and our family Cocker Spaniel was
Mm.
always by my side. It was just so sweet. Even after she went deaf, I'd sit down at the piano, and from upstairs, she'd find me at the piano. It was
Mm.
so sweet. Way back in 2003, when I was also a volunteer puppy raiser for guide dogs for the blind out here in
Oh,
California. I had a very rambunctious 4-month-old puppy, Sanchez, yellow lab, and when you meet trained guide dogs, they're calm and they're centered and they're focused. 4 months old, they're puppies, they're rambunctious.
still a puppy lab.
Exactly. And I also had a group of 4-year-old kids, human kids, and they'd come in crazy, wild, and screaming and yelling, and I wanted to figure out how to settle the kids and get them to focus for their
Yeah.
class time, for their music class. And so I started studying what was out there in the world of music for children to get them to calm and focus. And I found the right prescription of classical music, and they like 30 seconds flat, the right Mozart or whatever it was I was playing on the stereo and CDs back in those days, they'd be
Mhm.
centered and focused in no time, which was
Oh,
great. And then I looked over at my 4-month-old puppy, and he'd be snoozing, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I think I'm onto something." I
oh.
wonder if anyone has ever created music for dogs, and that's how it all began.
Oh, that's amazing. And then I know that you had an unfortunate injury that then led you on this complete new path. Do you mind sharing that story?
Sure, unfortunate and fortunate in many ways. Of
Yes.
course, at the time, it felt very unfortunate. 5 years ago in 2017, I fell and injured my right hand so severely that it's 7 fractures, needing 4 surgeries, a
Mm.
million alternative therapies, and a medical professional early on told me I would never be playing piano again.
Oh,
And of course, it was devastating. I proved her wrong because even when my hand was in a cast, I started playing music for left hand only. And then now 5 years later, I'm playing full concerts. Not only dog music, but
yes.
Rachmaninoff and Chopin sonatas and big works for 2 hands for people as well.
Oh,
Yeah. However, I also realized early on when my hand's in a cast and I'm playing music for left hand only, and I had a 10-year history career of creating music for dogs. So in
mhm,
2003, when I had that idea and then it developed into research with a veterinary neurologist and then a
mm,
launch in 2008 and then 16 albums and so forth. And I stayed with the original company I co-founded for 10 years, left them, and then during my hand recovery was really thinking about my left hand is playing lower frequencies. So
mm,
for non-musicians, what that means is lower frequencies are middle of the piano and lower bass. Now, not all instruments have access to lower frequencies. Violin does not, flute does not, oboe does not. Higher frequency instruments just they're beautiful, they just sound different. I
mm,
thought about all the research I had been involved with and also read that worked for dogs, playing music for them compared to control groups with no music,
mm,
compared to TV, compared to classical, heavy metal, jazz, and so forth. And one of the things that all the research had in common is that lower frequencies have been proven over and over to calm the canine nervous system. I'm gonna
Mm,
put this really simply for your doodle listeners. It's nighttime, let's say, and it's just sweet time, it's quieter in the house, the kids are asleep, and you kiss your dog goodnight, and you say, "Good girl, good
mhm.
boy." You just don't even think about it, but you instinctively drop your voice to a lower volume, probably volume also, but lower frequency,
Right,
lower register, and you're using long legato sounds. You would generally wouldn't say, "Good girl." You'd just say, "Good girl, good boy." If your
mm,
dog is about to cross the street and you wanna get his or her attention really fast because there's a car coming, you're gonna
yeah,
instinctively go into high-pitched, short staccato, high frequency notes, "Fido, here!" You're just gonna do that without even thinking about it because the
right.
Fido here is not gonna get his attention really fast because the higher frequency charges your dog's nervous system. The
Mm,
lower frequency with the slow down, lower, long legato lines in music terms calms the canine nervous system. So that's what I
mhm.
do in music. And sometimes no, not all the time, but sometimes I do that with my left hand only.
Amazing, and for our listeners, stay on until the end of the episode. Lisa is going to play live for us a special piece that she knows helps really relax your dogs, and apparently children too. For
Yes,
my
yes.
house of boys, I will be sure to be making sure that they listen to this song, as well as the rest of your music I'm always streaming, and I'm gonna watch to see when I'm playing it for the dogs, if they're calming down too. I know that your music is used all over by pet professionals and shelters. Where is your music being played now for dogs to be helped to
S
relax?
so when I was with my first company I co-founded, I was volunteering in shelters.
Mm,
Probably so many of us have done that or do that, and we all know that the dogs who are anxious generally don't
mhm.
get adopted
Yeah.
because they're not always wanted. So I knew if I could do something to really relieve their anxiety, that it would improve their chance of adoption. So
Mm.
this was way back in 2008 when everything was in CD format. I personally started reaching out to shelters and put something on the website saying, "We
Yeah.
have free music for you. Would you like
Mm.
us to send you a CD?" Us meaning me stuffing envelopes in my home office,
For the
bringing them to
dogs.
the post office myself, all for the dogs. But it was all worth it because I'll never forget this call from a shelter manager in Ohio. And he was in tears, and he said, "Lisa, this
Mm.
is the first phone call from my desk I have been able to make in 10 years because
Oh,
it's finally quiet in here
oh,
because your
dogs.
music has stopped the dogs from barking." And
Oh,
let me tell you about Trello. Trello has been in here a year, and finally, when he heard your music, he settled down and he got
oh.
adopted, and he's in his forever home now, and I just knew I had to get this out more, so I applied for grants and got a grant from
Mhm.
Bayer Animal Health, who I personally stuffed 500 envelopes to get those into shelters, and then they added 1,000, so last I know, I'm not in touch with the company, but last I heard
Right.
it was playing in 1,500 shelters.
Amazing. And now it's so much easier for us as listeners and pet parents. We don't have to reach out to you and ask for a hand-mailed CD. So what I do, I'm not gonna say it loudly because then it'll start playing, but I use my smart speakers, Bexa, and I just say, play your music, and it streams into my home. It's just so easy. So, where could listeners find your music, and what is the exact phrase of your album that they
Mm,
would look up?
the album is called Doggone Calm. I have discovered that Alexa doesn't always quite understand that, so My Zen Pet is the name of the company, so sometimes that works better. In October, I'm coming out with an album that's actually taken from my podcast with it, which is Meditating with Your Dog,
Oh,
and so that will be also under the title of My Zen Pet, the company title as well.
wonderful. Yes, there's a soundtrack that my Google Home always thinks when I'm asking for that album that it's like another Netflix soundtrack or something that has a similar name. So my Zen pet, I'll start saying that instead of doggone calm because I over pronunciate each time to make it
Right,
easy for
right,
myself.
exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah.
while people are playing music, particularly yours, which is free when you stream it, when they're playing it, there's a lot of misconceptions about the best way to use music for relaxation. And I know you've studied this a lot. Some people will just turn on the TV and leave the house, or they'll turn the music really loud, trying to mask any outside sounds, like other dogs barking or the garbage truck or something, or they turn it on right when they're leaving the house. What are your tips and tricks to be able to maximize the relaxation of music like yours?
Good question. I have things I'm starting to really teach people. Sound is a thing. It's just an invisible thing, so it's
Mm,
sometimes easy to forget as humans. But we have to remember that dogs hear almost twice the hertz range as we do. So what that means is they can hear almost twice as far, and their frequency range from their bass to their treble, the high, is more extreme than ours. So we're at 20 hertz if we're, let's say, middle age or younger. Dogs are about 45 hertz if they haven't lost some of the hearing. Cats are, by the way, are almost twice as high as dogs. So they may be hearing things you don't hear. And so when
mhm,
people say to me, I know I'm aware of sound, I leave the TV on all day. I would go bonkers if the TV is, and I only have half the hertz range my dog has.
mm,
And you have no control whatsoever what is coming on that TV. There might be gunshots, there might
yeah,
be construction noise, there might be beeping, there might be traffic, there might be airplanes, anything that actually could cause your dog anxiety. I'd rather be
mhm,
home in silence all day than TV going on. So, also when people say, "I play my classical music station and classical music app," that's a fabulous start. It really is. I commend them for their awareness that their dog's sound is really important. But again, you don't have control. Now I listen to classical music through streaming or through well, it used to be the local station and now it's a global app, which is the case in most places. But let's say it's 4 in the afternoon when it used to be a station and it was local. At 4 in the afternoon, believe me, they are not putting anything on to discharge my nervous system. They're trying to
right,
charge my nervous system. So they might put on a Mahler symphony, Berlioz Fantastique, a piece with 120 to 140 piece orchestra that's loud and then has all the booming that may cause your dog anxiety. So when you use music that's really specially designed for dogs, that's
mhm,
based on research, that is what really makes you a really sound aware doodle pet parent. So that's
okay.
really it's probably doodle pet parent 2.0 maybe.
Oh, we're always striving for that. We would like to parent like a pro
Yeah,
here. So,
exactly.
yes.
Exactly. That will get you there. So there's
Okay,
what you're playing, there's the frequency of which you play it, and then there's the volume. So don't let me forget volume, it's really important. But let's talk
great.
about by frequency is how often you play it. I'm using that word differently now. We're alluding to you don't wanna play it if your dog has separation anxiety, you don't want to dogs are so smart. They're watching us all the time, they're listening to us all the time, they're looking for patterns in everything, and if they see a pattern, you put on your shoes, you pick up your keys, you put on the music, they're like, "It's panic time."
They're
So
always
they know
watching for
that.
those departure cues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So don't add that to a departure cue. So when you asked earlier, where is it playing? It's also used in homes, obviously, but veterinary practices, it was the music I originally recorded is a big part of the fear-free movement. Dr. Marty Becker's Fearless Fear-Free movement. And so if you're using it at home, veterinarians prescribe it 30 minutes a day. Listen together. It's music that's for both ends of the leash.
Yeah.
It is music that is just as helpful at discharging your nervous system, and no matter what, if you have a dog who has any bit of anxiety, they will pick up on your anxiety around their anxiety. It's
Mm,
just continuous. So you wanna really address both ends of the leash, which is why veterinarians prescribe it 30 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be the same time of day, but because dogs are so good at patterns and it's a good nighttime ritual, just sit down together and have some quiet, and your dog will be like, "Oh, thank you for this peace and quiet." And then you can
Yeah.
use it as a bonding time with your dog too.
During those couch snuggles.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. They'll be snoring and you could read a book. It's
Right.
not as sleepy. I don't make the changes in the music because I'm basing it on more recent than I originally did with my original company.
Mhm.
It's very calming, but I haven't found that it's as sleepy. That's what people tell me. So it's good for reading and just getting chill together and for bedtime. So volume, because I really want to talk about
Yeah.
volume. Most people, like when I walk into those one of those
Mhm.
1,500 shelters and I hear my playing, I cringe because when it's too
Yeah.
loud. Because it's not about masking sounds, it's about calming the canine nervous system, so it doesn't need to be too loud to calm the canine nervous system, and it wants
Mhm.
to be a really gentle volume. What is that volume? You wanna pay attention to your dog to find that out, but I would say play it at a volume that if you were home all day or for a few hours listening, what volume would be comfortable for you, that you could still hear other things, be comfortable for you, and then just lower it a tad, knowing that your dog
Okay.
is so much more sensitive to sound.
That's a great measurement there. And when you were discussing earlier about frequency, by playing it regularly together during happy, connected moments, you have divorced it from those departure cues. So now when
Exactly,
the dog hears the music, your doodle isn't anticipating isolation or being alone. They're
exactly,
the emotional connection they have to that music is something positive, and it's not the same as when they see you get your shoes on, grab your purse, grab your keys, where the anxiety level's rising.
exactly. They're building their the association that the music means to be calm, all is good
Mhm.
with the world, my person is with me, and still don't play it right before you're leaving. If your dog has any bit of separation anxiety, even if they don't, because it's just healthy for dogs anyhow,
Mhm.
play it an hour, half an hour before you leave and start to mix up that pattern as well, but don't play it right before you're out the door. I tell you all this, and I'm gonna tell you the same thing if it's a thunderstorm, if it's fireworks, if
Yeah.
it's something your dog has thunder phobia, but I get emails every day from people who say, "My dog has thunder phobia. I've tried everything else, didn't know what to do. Saw your music on streaming. I tried it and it worked." So
Yes.
sometimes every dog is different. Sometimes it needs some conditioning, it needs some training. Other times it's like a pill and it just does work. And every dog is different. So it's really about paying attention to your own dog and finding out also pay attention to their where they are in source in relationship to the source of the sound. Do they go
Mhm.
near the speakers? Do they go away from the speakers? If they wanna leave the room, let them leave the room.
Yes.
And also be careful what other sound sources are in the house, because you might have a TV, your husband might be watching a football game in one room, your
Yelling at the game.
teenagers yelling at the
Yes.
game, yelling at this box your dog doesn't know, it's just your teenagers listening to heavy metal in one room, and you're put this on in the other room, and your dog, because they're dogs, we love them because they love us, will put themselves in the middle of this cacophony of sound. And
Mhm.
as much as possible, create a quieter environment where they can just hear the music, if that's conducive to your home environment.
Yes, my husband is a huge Cowboys fan, and now that we have kids, he watches his language, but his temper is still there when his Cowboys are disappointing them. And our dog Nestle wants to be with us more than
Yeah,
anything.
yeah,
So he'll be there, but you can see some signs of anxiety,
right.
licking, yawning, and him and I don't really be yelling at the TV either. I enjoy football, but not at that level. And so Nestle and I will go enjoy a quieter space together
Oh, that's
and
so
put the music
sweet.
together.
That's so sweet. Or
Yes.
even do something like I at 4 in the afternoon, I wanna put on and I'm working, I wanna put on
Mhm.
music to charge my nervous system.
Yeah.
My Zumba playlist, like, gets me going, but I don't and I might put it a little too loud for
Yeah.
Gina, for my 13-year-old black lab, but I'll give her the option, I'll give her a chew bone and put her if it's cool enough outside or somewhere where it's like she doesn't, because she always wants to be near me, but
Right.
she's, like, really happy chewing her bone, so it's a good time to have some separate time too.
Perfect. So you talked about frequency and volume, and then choice of music. You
Yeah.
were talking about, like, pitch.
So lower frequencies calm the canine nervous system, which is why I start my podcast theme music is left hand only. I'm going to play some left hand only music for your members today.
Yeah.
And lower frequencies just are fast calming the canine nervous system. The piece I'm going for dogs, so it's written for your dogs who's ever listening by a current day composer. It's not all left hand, but if you visually watch me, and then also if you listen, you'll notice many
Mhm.
places where my right hand, which generally plays higher frequencies, crosses over and reaches for the lower bass, the lower frequency notes.
Mm.
So it's over and over that those come in, and they're quite prominent.
Excellent. And listeners, stay tuned because Lisa's going to be playing one of her favorite songs for you at the end of this episode. So we're almost there, so you get to hear what she's talking about. Lisa, you mentioned your podcast. So we're already could stream Doggone Calm or My Zen Pet works better with the smart speakers when you ask for them. We could already stream those for free. And then what is your podcast about?
So my podcast is My Zen Pet, which is the name of the company. It
Yeah.
is the first podcast with music for pet stress. So season 1 was a little different than season 2. So season 1 was all micro podcasts, so short 10 minutes episodes or net less. This season 2 is I do 3 of those once a week, every Wednesday, Woof Wednesday, and then 1 a month I do a podcast interview. So I'm rotating a little bit. In season 1, I had meditations, and those are turning into an album, and as a podcast host, we're always experimenting, but I combine a piece of music with something in the My Zen Pet music system, some tip, whether
Mhm.
it's volume, whether it's frequency, whatever it is about educating people on the importance of creating a dog sound friendly home environment and what they can do
Mhm.
for their dogs anxiety and also just for overall good dog health, sound health.
I love it. And you described how vets can prescribe separation anxiety dogs listening like 30 minutes a day. And that could be like the 2.0 pro parent level. I can share one of our members in the Doodle Pro Society has a real phobia of fireworks. And those were just continuing and continuing in Denver on the 4th of July. And I shared with them your album and they went in the basement, so that gave them some kinda cover from the sound, and they said night 2, because they kept going for a few nights of the
Mhm.
fireworks. Night 2 was so much better, and they saw such a
Oh,
difference with your
fantastic.
music. Yes, Keanu is the
Fantastic.
name of the Aussie Doodle. He's the most
Oh.
handsome boy, just like the celebrity.
Oh, and the nice thing is that member noticed I'm sure you talk about this all the time, is little
Mhm.
by little. That's something I learned
Yes,
in my right hand recovery. It's noticing the little changes. So night 2 might have been a little bit better. Night 3 is a little bit better. Those little bit of improvements really do add up.
they do, and I have different doodles visit me daily in my home for what we call shed-free stay here in Denver, and I don't have every day with them to spend 30 minutes to play your music, but we do play it consistently in our home, and I notice a difference when we do versus when we don't. They're in an exciting environment like a shelter, not the same level of stress, but novel, other dogs, new dogs. I want them to be able to access relaxation, and it's the best. If you follow my Instagram, you always see, like, dogs, like, totally laying on each other, sleeping on the couch. I am often playing Lisa's music when that's happening. I might be doing my admin work while
Right.
they are just dozing
Oh,
off
so
relaxed.
sweet. And I'm sure they sense your energy around
Mhm.
that. Oh,
Yes. Lisa, I know you've got a couple exciting things coming up. For people who are listening now in September, you've got doors that are opening just for a short period of time. Can you tell our listeners about that?
yes. So I also have a membership called the Doggone Calm Club. And in the club is where anxious dogs and their people de-stress with the My Zen Pet music system. And when this airs, You will have been a guest expert because I have once a month, I also have guest experts talk about you're gonna be talking about fearful barking, and I've had separation anxiety certified trainers. I've had veterinary neurologists who talks about energy healing, and I've had animal communicators. I love just curating that. I mean,
Yeah.
I ask my members what they'd like. And so the membership is often closed, but we're doing a big opening at the end of September, and you can join the wait list at myzenpet.com/wait list. You can join the wait list for that, and you'll be the first to know when it opens, and we'd love to have you. So, in addition to learning the My Zen Pet music system, which is all the
Uh-huh.
things about volume and frequency and the order to do them in, I play monthly Dog Gone Calm concerts where I invite you to put your doodle on camera
Yes.
and tell us about your doodle and have that experience. So there's your prescriptive time listening with your doodle. And
And I
you listen
remember you did a
together.
4th of July concert,
Right. Right.
and I
Right.
loved
That's right.
watching all of those relaxed pets that were able to feel more calm with the fireworks that can really
Right.
just
Right.
terrify them. And for listeners who are listening at any time, I know you also have a freebie for them just for listening to our interview today. Can you share that? And I'll also share the link in the show notes.
Sure. So it's tips on how to use music designed for dogs for different behavior issues. And you can find that at myzenpet.com/tips.
Thank you, Lisa. We are going to enjoy a little medley from you if you can share what it's called. And then I appreciate your staying on just for our private membership, the Doodle Pro Society, and playing a private show for them afterward. Thank you so much for sharing your skills. And I'm glad that your Juilliard training has gone to the dogs.
Me too. So for your members, I'm gonna be playing something for left hand only. For your podcast listeners, I'm gonna be playing a piece written for your dogs. This is called Nocturne for Dogs: The Stillness of Night, written by a fabulous present day live composer, young live composer, Zach Goluboff Davis. He's American, and I met him on an agility field because he's
Oh,
also I'm an agility Gina's a two-time agility champion, 13 still running. She's in the rocking the veterans class. And so I met him when I was running Gina. He was judging an agility trial. So he's a professional composer and an agility judge. So he
perfect.
speaks dog, in other words. So I was able to collaborate with him and educate him about the lower frequencies and so forth and how do you apply that. So it's just a beautiful piece. And again, just listen for those lower bass notes. If you're
Okay.
watching, you can see it with my right hand reach over to the bass. It's short, but it's really gorgeous.
Thank
So
you for playing us
Nocturne.
out, Lisa.
Sure.
Lisa, I feel more relaxed already.
This is the one time when I get snores, it's a compliment.
Ah, exactly. I will love it. Your voice afterwards was smooth and calm, like I was listening to the classical station. Thank you.